Today, we're going to be talking about 3 things that you should stop doing immediately. Before we do, let's be real. Let's be honest with each other, shall we? Being a human is tough. Being a human is hard. Don't get me wrong. It is amazing. It is really, really amazing. But this shit can be tough, can't it? You've been through some things in your life, haven't you? You've been through some things. You're probably going to go through more things at some point in time in your life. It can be beautiful. It can be amazing. It can be hard as hell. But the craziest part about it is that 99% of the time, when things are tough, we are actually the ones making it tough on ourselves. It doesn't have to be as tough as we make it. Often, we can get stuck in the past, we can get stuck in the future, we can worry about mistakes that we've made, we could get anxiety about what might be coming up next week, and all of those things end up making it a lot harder on ourselves versus actually just being in the present moment. We live in a world where everything's always changing. Something is always happening. There's always something bad that's happening in the world. We're always searching for happiness. We're always searching for fulfillment. We want some meaning in our lives, but shit, we also have to pay the bills, right? So why don't we try to make it a little bit easier on ourselves? With all of the stuff that can happen, all the stuff that does happen, wouldn't it be nicer if we just made it a little bit easier on ourselves every single day? It would. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about 3 things that you need to stop doing immediately so that you can be a happier person. Okay? 3 different things. Number 1, stop regretting the past. I have coached many, many people over the past 17 years of me coaching people. And the one thing that I see that's very common, one of the things that I see that's very common, is that so many people are stuck in the past. They think the past is making them who they are right now. They think the past is something that matters going into their future. Like they can't go into their future without bringing their past with them. And it's common to look back on the past and to have a lot of regrets. Things that we did, decisions that we made, things that you didn't do, things that you did do, opportunities that were there that you missed, mistakes that you made in relationships in the past. And we can look in the past and we can look at it and be like, damn it, man, like I could have done so much better. But what's really important to know is that in the past, whatever happened, you did the best that you could with the knowledge that you had at that time. It's easy to have more knowledge today. Like, you could have really fucked something up 5 years ago. And it's easy to look at it 5 years later down the road today and be like, damn it, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish that would have been different. But it's easy to have more knowledge today, now, 5 years later, and wish you would have done something different then. It's natural to feel that way. But it's important to understand you didn't have the knowledge that you have now back then. And I always bring, whenever I think about the past or hear people that are ruminating in the past, they're stuck in the past, I always bring the phrase that I've heard so many times from Peter Crone, which is, what happened happened and could not have happened any other way because it didn't. Like I truly believe that every single thing that happens to us in our life is a lesson for us to learn, to improve, to get better, all of that. And if it happened, it absolutely 100% had to happen that way. And so I can relieve myself from the past. And it's natural to feel like you wish things would have been different, but it's important to understand that dwelling on the past, dwelling on your mistakes, dwelling on your failures, dwelling on all the things you messed up, hold you back from moving forward, and it takes you out of the present moment. And if you're out of the present moment, it means you're not doing the best that you possibly can be in this present moment, which means that dwelling on the past is holding you back from a better future. So what do we do? Well, instead of regretting the past, when we look at the event that we wish would have been different, that we would have done something different, we need to learn from it. So instead of looking at it and be like, man, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done this, take that exact same event, get a pen and paper and say, what can I learn from this? If there is a God or a universe that came down and said, I'm going to give you this life experience because there's lessons in it. What were the lessons that you were supposed to extract and learn so that you could bring with you on the rest of your life so you could get better? Because mistakes can be our greatest teachers. Mistakes should be our greatest teachers. And then we can use them to improve ourselves. We can use them to improve our lives. But we have to be the ones to extract the lessons. No one's going to come and give you a lesson based off of your past. And so you look at the event, you look at what you did, you look at how you screwed up or someone else screwed up, and you say, what was I supposed to learn from this? What is the lesson that I have missed from this event in my life because I've been too caught up in wishing that it would have been different versus looking at it as it being absolutely perfect. And it was brought to me because I'm supposed to learn something. There was a lesson. There was a teacher that was in here. Where is that lesson? Because you know you can't change the past. Like we know it, but so often people get so caught up in wishing that they could change it. We can't control the past. We can't change the past, but we can control our response to the past. And we've got to stop living in it. You've got to stop thinking about it all of the time because it's stealing your present moment. If it's stealing your present moment, then it's stealing your future. The past has nothing to do with the present moment. The same way that if you're in a boat and you look backwards and you see the wake of the boat cannot steer the ship. So if the wake of the boat cannot steer the ship, it's the exact same thing. Your past cannot change your present moment unless you let it. The past should not control your current feelings. Another thing that's important about the past, the last thing I'll say about it is this, is I think most people just need to practice more self-compassion. We need to be kinder to ourselves and forgive ourselves for our mistakes. We screwed up. Yeah, you fucked up, dude. You did. Sometimes really bad. But hey, it is the way that it was. Stop beating yourself up over it. It happened 3 years ago. Get over it. Get past it. Stop beating yourself up because so many people beat themselves up over something that they cannot change. What's the point of that? We need to understand that making mistakes is natural. It's a natural part of life. It's what you were supposed to have had happen in your human experience. But really, what can we learn from it? That's what matters. So that's the first thing, is to stop worrying about the past. The second thing is to stop worrying about the future. The future is this great unknown. And something that is unknown to the human brain, the animalistic side of us, there is an animalistic side of you that's inside of you that does not like the unknown. The unknown is very dangerous to the animalistic brain. And so your brain wants to solve the unknown. And by solving the unknown, what your brain will do is it will project into the future, and it'll project itself into the future and start thinking of all of the things that could possibly go wrong so that you can start to plan a way to protect yourself. But that's a lot of energy that your brain is using. Your brain uses more energy than any other organ in your body. It weighs only 2% of your entire body weight, but uses about 20% of your energy every single day. You've done it before. You've had a day where you're literally sitting in front of the computer, you're working, you're cranking a lot of stuff. And by the time you get done, 5, 6 o'clock, like you're exhausted. Your physical body barely moved, but your brain was just going. And so to worry about the future is a lot of mental energy spent when it could be used towards something productive. And if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you've heard me say this statistic before, but psychologists have found that about 85% of what you worry about will never happen. And out of the other 15% that will happen, they found that 12% of that 15% happens better, way better than you thought it would. Meaning that only 3% of what we worry about actually happens. 1 out of 33 things that we worry about happens the way that we think it's going to happen, which means 32 things that we're worrying about, we're wasting our energy worrying about it. Your energy is so precious. It is so finite. You've only got a certain amount every single day. There's only so much coffee you can drink to try to give yourself more energy. What a waste of your precious time. What a waste of your precious energy by worrying about things that may never happen. Worrying about the future leads to anxiety. It leads to stress. It puts your brain and your body through way more than it needs to go through. It can also cause you to miss out on opportunities because you're too focused on what might happen and you're not even living in the present moment. You completely miss things that are happening in the present moment. There's so many people that have anxiety nowadays, and anxiety comes from, like 99% of the time, worrying about something in the future. And most of the time, those things never actually happen. So what do we need to do? We need to start being aware of when we're projecting our thoughts in our mind into the future too much. We're having too much anxiety about the future, too much stress about the future, and we're worrying about something. Like, I was having a conversation the other day and they were worrying with someone the other day and they were worrying about a bill that is due in a couple months. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been worrying about this? Oh my gosh, I've been worrying about this for months. Okay, so you've been spending months worrying about a bill that's still due in a couple months, when in reality, that's just stealing away your present moment, where you could literally work to make that money in the present moment so that you don't have to worry about that bill. So we need to focus more on the present moment. We need to be more present. We need to notice when we get out of our present reality and start projecting in the future. We need to practice more gratitude and appreciate the things that we have in our lives that are literally in this moment. And so then you ask yourself, when I notice myself worrying too much, projecting too much in the future, what do I do? Very simple. You bring yourself back to your body, okay? Because your brain tends to live in two different places, either the past or the future. Very rarely does the human brain live in the present moment unless we try to bring it to the present moment. What's cool about your brain and your brain likes to project forward and backwards. It's all over the place. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's another place. But your body is always in the present moment. It's always here. Your brain's all over the place. Your body is here. And so what do? Is you always come back to your body. So if you feel yourself projecting too far into the future or too far into the past, worrying or regretting or any of those things, bring yourself back to this moment. Take 6 deep breaths and try to be as conscious as possible in those 6 deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth, how you can bring yourself back to your body. You can notice the movement of your chest going up and your belly going up and your belly going down. You can notice the feeling of your shirt on your skin as that happens. You can notice your heartbeat. You can notice the feeling of the breath going in the nose and the way it feels on your nose and how it's a little bit colder, and the breath coming out of your mouth and how it feels in your lips. And you bring yourself to the feelings of the body. And so you bring yourself back to this present moment. And so that's number 2, is you have to stop worrying so much about the future. And number 3, another thing that's going to help you become happier immediately is to stop looking for happiness in other people. One of the biggest mistakes that you can have to make, but also to just assume, is that other people are going to make you happy. Not just other people, but that things are going to make you happy. Happiness is a state of mind. It is not a reaction to life. It's a state of mind. It's something that you decide to be. You can decide to be happy regardless of circumstances. There's many people that have circumstances way worse than yours, but are also happier than you, which show you that circumstances are not what make you happy or not. All too often, we take our circumstances and we go, oh, I won't be happy until I can buy this thing. Or we say, oh, I'm this way and I'm not happy because my husband's this way. And I'm not the way because my children are doing this and my son is failing. You have to stop looking for happiness in other people. It is not anybody else's job to make you happy. If they married you, it's still not their job to make you happy. The same way it's not your job to make them happy. It is a decision that somebody has to make themselves happy, to find happiness in this moment, to decide to get into a state of happiness. Because it's important to have real positive relationships in our lives. It's important to have connection, but our happiness and our fulfillment doesn't come from anybody else. It doesn't. There's no way of doing that. No achievement. Oh, I'm going to make $1 million, then I'll be happy. No, when you make $1 million, you're still going to feel exactly the same way that you feel right now. When I get into a relationship, I'm going to be happy. No. Oh, when my husband starts acting this way, then I'll be happy. Oh, when my child decides to stop acting up in school, then I'll be happy. No, there's no way to do that. If you're looking for happiness in other people, it will only lead to frustration, and it will lead to disappointment, because people are not perfect. They'll inevitably let you down at some point in time. They'll say something wrong. Things are not going to go. You're not going to get your expectations met all of the time. So when you set yourself up, you set yourself up for failure when you think that other people are going to make you happy, because other people are going to screw up, because people are people and that's what they're going to do. But when you look at your life and you wake up each morning, you say, okay, I'm going to make happiness a priority for myself. I am going to make myself happy. I had a really good friend who was one of the first employees at Facebook, and he got fired from Facebook. And when they got, it's like a year later they went public, he missed out on like $180 million. And he got really depressed for a little while because he missed out on $180 million. And then he said something to me that I will remember for the rest of my life. And that phrase was, he said, I decided one day when I was really depressed that I would not let my happiness or my depression be left up to chance. And what he meant by that is he said, so every morning, so what I did, he said that what he did was he made this big, huge list of all of the things that made him happy in life. And, things that he did, the ways that he thought, reading books, sitting in silence, talking positively to himself. And then he started asking himself, how can I bring as many of these things as possible into my life every single day? And so he would wake up every single morning he would look at that list and he would prioritize his happiness. And he brought himself out of a depression because he was prioritizing happiness. And he was taking the things that made him happy in the way of life and the state of happiness that he could bring out of himself and started prioritizing that. And so don't look for other people to make you happy. It's not other people's jobs to make you happy. It is your job to make you happy. And so if you want to be happier, prioritize your happiness more than anything else. And so those are the 3 things you want to stop doing immediately. Number 1, you want to make sure that you stop regretting the past. Number 2, you've got to stop worrying about the future. And number 3, you've got to stop searching for happiness in other people. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. I love it when I see hundreds of you guys sharing this every single day, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Because of you, this message spreads and more people are able to find us. So I greatly, greatly appreciate you for doing that. And I'm going to leave the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Dial. Today, we're going to be talking about 8 techniques to relieve your daily stress. World's crazy, isn't it? Life is crazy. Things are always kind of crazy. And if I'm being honest with you, it seems like they're just getting crazier. And so really what it comes down to is we can't change the world around us. But what we can do is we can change how we react to the world around us. And that's what today's episode is really about. And it goes back to one of the phrases one of my first mentors used to always say, is he used to always say, your stress and anxiety, the level of your stress and anxiety will be in direct proportion to how much you are resisting the way that the world is. So the world is the way that it is. The people around us are the way that they are. And the more that we resist it, the more stress and anxiety we're actually going to have. And so for you guys that are out there, myself included, we need to have better techniques to remove stress. I don't know about you guys, but for me, launching this book in the next about 8 weeks for me is crazy. I'm on so many other people's podcasts. I'm traveling. I'm doing events. On top of that, I've got other things that are happening with creating this podcast, expanding the podcast to try to make it better. I've also got so many other things that's happening in my personal life, and it's like everything's happening at the exact same time, and it's all very exciting. But thinking about all of the things that I have to do over the next 8 weeks can be very stressful. And so these are tips and techniques that I actually use in my own life to, when I feel stress and anxiety come up, to relieve it. Because ultimately, I'm not going to tell you that I don't feel stress and anxiety sometimes. I definitely do. But when I do, I just have tools in my tool belt to help me relieve myself and get myself back to calm state, feeling much better. Homeostasis, which is what we're trying to get back to, right? So the first one is this. You know this one if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, but the question is, do you use it? Like, are you going to be like, oh, damn, he's going to say this one again? But then you could take a step back and say, well, okay, I've heard him say this before, but am I using it? Because sometimes you have to hear something like 1,000 times before you do it. The first one, which is my go-to every single time, is my breathing. 6 deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. When you do a long exhale, like you're breathing out through a straw, it releases extra carbon dioxide from your body, which allows you to relax. But a long exhale actually starts to slow your heart rate down. So when we breathe deeply, we supply more oxygen to the brain and to the body, which actually brings a sense of calm and alertness to you. It counteracts the fight or flight mechanism that is inside of your brain. So physiologically speaking, deep inhales, the exercise can actually calm the body's, turn on the body's parasympathetic nervous system, which the parasympathetic nervous system is calm, and helps reduce the stress-inducing sympathetic nervous system. And so it gets you out of fight or flight and gets you more into a calm state. And really what it can do is all of this can decrease your heart rate, it can reduce your blood pressure, it can reduce your relaxation, or it can induce more relaxation and just allow you to calm down a little bit more. Because all too often, the very first thing that changes in our body when we get excited, when we get stressed, when we get happy, the first thing to change is our breathing. So it really comes down to, if I feel a state change in my body, how can I breathe to get my body back to the state change, the state that I want it to be in more than anything else? So first thing, very simple. It's just 60 breaths. It'll take you 2 minutes at most, and it will change your body. It'll change your day immediately. The second thing is to start focusing on gratitude. You've probably heard this before. What you focus on grows. And if you focus too much on what you don't want, you will get more of what you don't want. If you focus on what you don't have, you will get more of the stuff that you don't have. And so if you focus on all of the things that you used to have, but you don't have anymore, you're just going to get more of those feelings. And what we need to get better at is we need to change our perspective. If you think about everything that you don't have, if you think about everything that you want, if you think about all of the stuff that's screwed up in your life right now, like just think about this for a second. Think about all of the stuff in your life right now that's not what you want it to be. Think about all of the things that are just not the way that you want it. Think about all of the people that are stressful in your life. All of the people that are just like, damn it, I wish they were different. Think about all of those things for a second. The thought alone of all of that stuff can be extremely stressful. And often what we do is we become consumed with what we don't have. We become consumed with what we've lost. We become consumed with what we desire. And when we desire something, we automatically create a space of, okay, there's me now. I want this thing, and not having that thing is making me stressed out. And so one of the things with the society that we live in, with Instagram and constantly seeing what other people have that we don't have, with seeing ads all over the place and our ads thinking that, oh, if I get this thing, I'll finally be happy. It takes you out of your current state and make you think, I'm not happy where I currently am. I desire for things to be different. And that desire automatically creates some form of stress and anxiety. And so really what it comes down to is the opposite of desiring something is to be grateful for what you have. And so if I can know, okay, desire causes stress. The opposite of desire is gratitude. If I can look around and see what I have, it'll make me feel better. And when you see what you have and you can feel gratitude for what you have, your brain releases something called serotonin. Serotonin and dopamine are usually put together as the same feel-good chemicals, but they're completely different. Dopamine is more of like the motivation chemical. Serotonin is this feeling of, okay, everything in life is pretty good. I feel pretty awesome. I feel like this is good. I feel like life is good. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So desiring stuff, it's not bad to desire things. I don't want you to think that. But desiring things too much and thinking, I won't be happy until I get this, thinking I won't be happy until I get this automatically makes you what? Not happy. And so the opposite of desire is gratitude. Can you look around yourself and realize no matter where you are in your life, even if you're at rock bottom, you still have things to be grateful for. You're still alive. You're still breathing. 150,000 people did not wake up today that were here yesterday. Can you, if you have nothing, if you're living on the street and somehow listening to me on your phone, can you feel gratitude for the fact that your heart is still beating, that you have your health? Can you feel good about that? And if you can start there, you can start to feel better about other things around you and start creating what it is that you want. And that is one way to really reduce your stress and anxiety. The next thing, number 3, is to go for a walk. Walking, interestingly enough, has a lot of therapeutic benefits for humans. Forward motion, by just walking, forward motion seen through the eyes actually lowers your cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So by simply going for a walk for 10 minutes without your phone, without your headphones, can lower your stress hormones immensely. And if possible, I recommend that you actually go for a walk in nature. And being in nature is actually shown to also reduce cortisol levels, which is your stress. And so think about this. Going on a walk lowers your cortisol. Being in nature lowers your cortisol. Can you figure out a way to try to go for a walk in nature? You know, if you live in New York City, and you've been having a stressful week, okay, you don't have a whole lot of nature, but I do know there's one place that's really amazing, Central Park. Can you say, okay, tonight it's important for me to feel better. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to leave my phone. Maybe you have a backpack with you took to work, right? Okay, I'm going to take my phone. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to put it in my backpack, and I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to have nothing that I need to do, nothing that I feel like I need. I just want to go out and walk in nature. The natural environment that you're in promotes a calming effect that's also often referred to as the biophilia hypothesis, which suggests that humans have an innate desire to connect with nature. And that alone will actually start to lower your cortisol levels. Hey, if you're loving this episode, do me a quick favor. Give us a like down below for the YouTube algorithm, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you know every single time I put out a new episode so that you never miss one in the future. So going for a walk in nature, if you can't go for a walk in nature, going for a walk still helps you out a lot. But going for a walk in nature has many times, study after study after study, decreased levels of cortisol, decreased levels of depression. In natural settings, especially those that have a lot of greenery or have a lot of water, can have immediate mood boosting effects. There's actually something that's called Shinrin-yoku, which is called forest bathing. And it's a Japanese concept that translates basically to taking in the forest atmosphere or forest bathing. And it involves immersing yourself in a forest environment, and it's been scientifically shown to have both physical and mental health benefits. So sometimes you just got to get out in nature. Sometimes you just got to go for a walk. And so that's tip number 3, try those out. Tip number 4 is to take everything that's in your head and put it down on a piece of paper. A lot of times the solution to what it is that's going on in your head is a lot simpler than you make it out to be. It's just your brain is very complex. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. And so writing things down, journaling it out can actually help reduce cortisol levels massively. In 1986, there was a study that was done that was called Confronting a Traumatic Event toward a, I'm going to try to get this entire title down, Confronting a Traumatic Event toward an Understanding of Inhibition and Disease. It was in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology. And what they found was that in the study is they examined the effect of writing about traumatic events. So this could be used for traumatic events, but it could also be used for your stress as well. You can write about traumatic events, but you can also just write about what you're stressed out about. And they actually found that participants who wrote about a traumatic experience showed a significant improvement in both physical and psychological, So physiological and psychological well-being compared to those who wrote about anything else besides the actual traumatic event. So they had people who had a lot of stress and anxiety, and they actually said, hey, just start journaling. And some people started journaling just on random things, superficial topics. Oh, today I went for a walk. Then they had a group of people who went and they actually wrote about their traumatic events. And they actually found out that there was physiological and psychological benefits of writing about the actual traumatic event. It's just expressive writing. And essentially journaling about distressing events or how you feel if you're stressed out was associated with reduced stress and better health outcomes as well. So what can you do? Put it all down on pen and paper. The next one that I recommend is this. This is something that's completely, I don't really hear people talking about it. I'm only saying this because it helped me a lot, is to get your blood levels checked. Might cost you a few $100s, but for me, a couple years ago, it was about 3 years ago, I wasn't feeling like 100%. I was feeling really like off. Like I wasn't feeling as motivated or as excited. I felt kind of like blah a few years ago. And I was like, man, I normally don't feel this way. I usually feel pretty good throughout the day. And I went and did blood tests, and I realized that all of my blood tests, everything looked amazing. But there were 2 vitamins that I was deficient in. One of them was vitamin B, it was a certain type of vitamin B, and the other one was vitamin D. Both of those 2 things were down. I told the doctor, and I was like, hey, I don't feel 100%. I feel like I might need to get my blood levels checked. He's like, okay. So we get my blood levels checked. I come back. Okay, you're good, except for your vitamin D and vitamin B are both low. And so he gave me just these drops that I put into my drink every single morning. I took them, and I'm not even kidding you, I felt like a completely new human. It was like within 3 or 4 days, I felt completely different. My stress levels were down, my anxiety levels were down, I had more energy, and it's all because my vitamins were I was deficient, and we fixed them. What's interesting too is a couple months ago, I was starting to feel like the stress and anxiety come back up again. I was like, man, I'm starting to feel kind of anxious again. And I was like, why do I feel this way? And I was like, oh, I haven't been taking the vitamins. And I was like, I'm going to take these vitamins and I'm just going to see how I feel. What happens? Literally the first day I started taking them again, I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. And so do I want to be taking this for the rest of my life? No, there's obviously dietary stuff that I can fix in myself. But sometimes what's going on in your head is important, but sometimes what's going on in your blood is also very important. So it's going to cost you a couple $100, but you'd be surprised how much you can change in just making sure your blood levels are where they should be and seeing if you can get some work to kind of help you get back to status quo, I guess you could say. So that's number 5. Number 6 is to consider less caffeine. I'm sorry, all of you coffee lovers. Try having less caffeine for a little while. You can try to switch to green tea if you want, and try to remove caffeine from your life and just see what happens to your stress levels, because caffeine can actually massively increase your cortisol. And so if And that can be really good sometimes if you're trying to get something done. A lot of times having cortisol in your blood is actually really good for taking action and to get stuff done. But sometimes caffeine can actually make you, most times more than anything else, it can actually make you really stressed out. And so if you don't get rid of it, try to massively reduce it. If you're doing 3 cups of coffee a day and you're very stressed out and anxious throughout the day, see what it would feel like if you only have 1. Sometimes when your vitamin levels are corrected, you realize you don't need as much caffeine. So for me, for instance, a few months ago, I was drinking 3 cups of coffee, whatever it might be throughout the day when my blood levels were not where they were supposed to be. I started taking vitamin B and vitamin D again. Guess what happened? I took it as soon as I woke up in the morning. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I take electrolytes, 32 ounces of water. I have electrolytes, and I put vitamin B, vitamin D in there. Guess what happens? I don't feel like I need caffeine in the morning because my levels are where they should be. And so that's why I wanted to bring in the blood levels before we started talking about the caffeine. Sometimes the caffeine is kind of a crutch for giving you some energy throughout the day, when really what the actual problem is not your energy levels and caffeine being needed, but it's really your blood levels are not where they should be. And so I would just say, try it out for a little while, try less caffeine and just see if that helps with your cortisol levels, see if it helps with your stress and your anxiety. Also, try to stop having it after 1 o'clock. Don't have any caffeine after 1 o'clock if you can. You'll sleep better. Maybe it's interrupting your sleep as well. So that's number 6. Number 7, try to watch 10 minutes of comedy. Laughing releases dopamine, and dopamine lowers your cortisol. So dopamine is actually seen to buffer your cortisol, and so it will lower it. And laughter has been shown to reduce levels of cortisol in the body's primary stress hormone. And when cortisol levels decrease, you generally start to feel more relaxed and less anxious. Another thing that watching comedy does is it releases endorphins. Laughter stimulates the production of endorphins, which is the body's natural feel-good chemicals. So endorphins themselves also promote an overall sense of well-being and can temporarily relieve pain in the body. And also what it does, comedy promotes physical relaxation. After laughing, muscles can remain relaxed up to 45 minutes. The act of laughing involves many muscles in the body, and after laughter subsides, the muscles tend to relax, leading to a physical relaxation that you have. And so there was a study that was done in 1988, it was in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And it was called Sense of Humor as a Moderator of the Relation between Stressful Events and Psychological Distress. And what they found in the study was they examined humor as a coping mechanism and its effects on psychological distress. And they found that humor acts as a buffer against stress, suggesting that we should engage in more activities that promote laughter. And so sometimes if you're just stressed, find your favorite comedian, find your favorite TV show, give yourself 10 minutes to watch it and watch how it relieves your stress as well. And then the last one I'm gonna give you, that was number 7. The last one is start paying attention to the music that you're listening to. If you're really stressed out in the day and you're listening to Slipknot, well, Slipknot's not really gonna help you calm down. There's a time for it. I listen to Slipknot sometimes when I work out, and it's amazing. It's a tool. I can use it at that moment. But if I'm feeling stressed and I'm listening to hardcore metal, probably not the best thing to listen to. And so there's music that's been designed to relieve stress. There's a song that I listen to every single time I'm driving, and I'm like, okay, today's been a crazy day. I'm gonna use this 10-minute drive to kind of calm myself down. The song is called Weightless by Marconi Union. And the way I found it is I read an article one day that said it's the most relaxing song that they've ever, that studies have ever found. So that song for me always calms me down. Another song that really always calms me down is the Out of Africa theme song from the movie. And there's been many studies over and over and over again that show how much music can actually reduce your anxiety and your stress. There was a study in 2001 in the Journal of Music Therapy and found out that relaxing music prevents stress-induced increases in subjective anxiety. It changes your blood pressure and your heart rate in healthy males and females. And so really the study involved subjects who were exposed to stress-inducing tasks. So they gave them a task that was really hard, really stress-inducing. And those people who listened to relaxing music prior to the actual event had less subjective anxiety, reduced blood pressure, and decreased heart rate compared to those who did not listen to relaxing music. And so if you find yourself stressed, once again, try to listen to some music that's a little bit calming. And so once again, all of these are just tools for your tool belt. There's breathing that you can use. There's gratitude that you can use. You can go for a walk. You can go for a walk in nature, which you can use. You can write all of your things down of what's going on inside of your head. You can get your blood levels checked. You can drink less caffeine. You can watch 10 minutes of comedy, and you can just listen to slow music. What it comes down to is your external reality is not going to change. We just have to get better of coping with our external reality. And these are just some tips and tricks to help you relieve your stress and your anxiety throughout the day. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. Also, if you love this podcast, please go ahead and buy my book. My book is everything that I've ever learned in the past 17 years of coaching people, put into a step-by-step process to create the life that you want. It is not a self-help book. It is a deep psychological book so you can start to understand your brain to take the action that you need to create the life that you want. It is called Level Up, and it is subtitle is How to Get Focused, Stop Procrastinating, Upgrade Your Life. If you want to go ahead and get that book, go to robdial.com/book. There's many places that you can buy it. It's been number one already on Amazon before it even launched. But just being able to buy in pre-sales, number one in neurology, number one in psychology, number one in entrepreneurship. And so if you want it, go ahead and buy it. If you buy it before October 3rd, you will get it on pre-sale, which means that it will be delivered to your house the day it comes out, hopefully as long as your provider or whoever delivers it to your house gets it to you on time. And when you buy it on pre-sale as well, you will also get, number one, a free course, which is how to stop procrastinating. And at the same time, you will also get entered into a prize pool of over $25,000 in cash and prizes. That is only available for people who buy it in pre-sale. And you can enter into that at robdial.com/book. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission, make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Today, we're going to be talking about your fears. All of those fears that you have. And I'm going to talk to you about how to accept your fears, how to dance with your fears, how to realize that there's a really big chance those fears that you have will never, ever, ever go away. And so I noticed this because I was giving a speech not too long ago, and I was giving a speech and I was in the back of the room of the speech, and I was about to be brought on stage. And there's over 1,000 people that are in the crowd. And a couple of times I've spoken to crowds that are that big. When you look at the podcast is like hundreds of times larger than that. But I don't see people's face. I'm not right in front of them. If I screw something up in this, I could always get it edited out, even though we don't really edit anything here. But what happened was I noticed an hour before I was being brought on stage, like the nerves started kicking in. And I really started to feel it. And I was like, man, like, what could go wrong? And I started thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Oh my gosh, what if when she brings me up, I'm all excited and then I trip on one of the cords that are taped down on stage? Or what if I'm on stage and I'm going through my talk and I've got the whole thing memorized and then it's just like, I blank out and I just completely lose where I was and what I've talked about and I forget about it? Or what if I have a joke and I make a joke and I think it's awesome and then it doesn't hit? Or what if, I'm up there and I'm giving this speech and it just bombs and it just sucks and the crowd's not accepting of everything that I say. And I had all of these thoughts that started going through my head, all of these fears that started going through my head. And it started making me really nervous. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't felt these nerves in quite some time. And I have probably, taking even the podcast out, all that stuff that I've done, probably about 25,000 hours of actual in-person public speaking experience. And I still was getting nervous before going on stage. With 20,000 hours of public speaking experience, I still get nervous before walking on stage. And it was nerves. And then she calls my name up. She introduces me. I get on stage, silence, calm, no fear, no worries. And I was like, that's crazy because I was thinking it as I'm giving my speech. I was like, I'm so calm right now. There is no fear. I have no worries. There's no problems that I have. And I was thinking to myself, man, it is so crazy because before I got on stage, it was fears. And I got on stage and they were gone. And it reminded me of when you think of, and there's a really viral video that happened of Will Smith giving a speech one time where he was talking about skydiving. And he was talking about how in the middle of the night, like he woke up And he was terrified the night before. And he started thinking about it. And he woke up over and over and over again. He started replaying, like, what if something goes wrong? What if I die? What if something goes wrong? What if I die? And he remembers being nervous the whole night before. And then he gets into the van and they're all going to go skydiving in Dubai. And he's nervous inside of the van on the way to go there. And then he's sitting there and they're teaching him, okay, this is how you're supposed to hold your arms. This is how you're supposed to hold your legs. And he's like nervous, nervous, nervous. And then they take up on the flight and there's nerves on the flight up. And then the door opens and he says the door opens and his exact words were terror, terror, terror. And you get out to the edge and you're looking down at what is death. And then you jump. And within 1 second, you realize it is the most blissful experience of your life. He said there was zero fear while I was falling. And what he realized, what was really crazy about the whole thing was you realize that at the maximum point of danger is also the minimum point of fear. But the whole buildup, when he wasn't falling from the sky, and he was sitting in his bed and he was safe, he was fearful. He was fearful when he was in the van and he was safe. He was fearful when he was learning and he was safe. He was fearful when he was in the flight and he was safe. He was fearful even when he was on the edge of the plane and about to jump out and he was safe. But it was fear, 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 fear until he was actually falling at the moment of maximum danger, falling to the earth. There was no fear. And what he says is the lesson is, why were you scared? Why was I scared when I was in bed the night before? Because everything up until the moment of stepping out of the plane, all of that fear was not necessary. And so we have so many fears in life that hold us back from doing amazing things. As he also says in that same video, God placed everything in life amazing on the other side of fear. And so what happens is you feel the exact same way. If you've been on a roller coaster, you fear before, your brain and body are trying to keep you safe, but during, you're excited. Right after, you're excited. It's amazing. You know, there's a bunch of hell yeah. Sometimes there's some oh shits. But then after, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And what you realize is that a lot of times fear is fully 100% unnecessary. Now, fear is a protection mechanism to keep you alive. That is 100% true. But what's interesting about it is that fear is a protection mechanism to keep us alive. What we're usually fearing has nothing to do with any potential danger. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. Because all of your fears, pretty much all of your fears are fake. Almost all of your fears are fake. They're not real. They're not rooted in actual truth. Because when you go back to our ancestors, having fears make a whole lot of sense. Because fear meant that our ancestors were forecasting into the future of, a rustling in a bush or going outside of a cave at night. And fear was always rooted in potential pain or danger, like potential pain, potential death, right? That's what our ancestors had to worry about. Potential pain, potential death, whatever it might have been. Our fears nowadays is we've basically, in modern day and age, there's nothing that's really going to kill us. I mean, we've mitigated as many risks as we possibly can. There's very few things that are just going to kill you in a normal, average person's day-to-day in modern life. So with that, though, we still have the part of our brain, the amygdala, that brings up all of these fears. And so what our brain does is it still continues to look for things to be afraid of. It still continues to look for things that are quote-unquote potential dangers. Now, once again, before, fear was always rooted to some pain or potential death. But fears nowadays are not rooted in pain and potential death. Now, we still, if we're not cognizant of it, we're not thinking about it correctly, our brain will still go to thinking as if it is we are going to die or we are going to have massive amounts of pain. But that pain is not physical pain. The pain is quote unquote emotional pain a lot of times. But a lot of times, I'll give you an example, like our ancestors walking outside of a cave in the middle of the night. There should be massive amounts of fear because you never know what's going on. There's lions, there's tigers, there's bears, oh my. But now when it's like, okay, I just created this Instagram reel and it's talking about how, we should all be nicer to each other or whatever it might be that you want your Instagram reel to be. And you feel fear right before you go and post it. Now, if you post an Instagram reel, is there any potential pain that is attached to that or any potential death that is attached to that? No, but it still feels physically exactly the same inside of our body. 99% of what you fear is not going to kill you. It's not. 99.9% of what you fear is not going to kill you. So why do we place so much into not doing what we fear? Psychologists have also found too that 85% of what you worry about doesn't even happen in the first place. So what is the damn point? What you realize, what I've come to realize, is it's not about overcoming your fears. Because I don't know if you can actually fully ever overcome fears. Like, I have worked on myself for years and years and years and years. And my fears are not gone. I still feel all of my fears, but they're just turned down a lot more than they used to be. So like maybe my fear of being judged by people was like a 9 before or an 8 before 15 years ago. Now it's like a 1 or 2. It's still there and maybe it'll go away, but I don't actually think that it'll ever go away. I am okay with it never disappearing. The big misconception, like I always had when people are like, and now we're going to bring on our fearless leader, Todd, and they bring out their fearless, quote unquote, fearless leader, as if the people who run businesses or do things that are different than what the average person does are fearless. No, they're not fearless. They still feel all of the exact same fears. The difference is they just don't listen to them. The average person will feel a fear and allow that to stop them from taking the action that they need to create the life that they want. Another person can feel the fear, but decide to do it anyways. Think about that for a second. You can still think and fear all of the exact same things that you fear, but you don't have to let it stop you anymore. So if you're feeling that, oh my gosh, I'm going to put this picture on Instagram, or I'm going to go and give a speech or whatever it is, none of those things, you're not going to die. There's no pain. There's no real physical pain attached to that in the end. There's no potential danger of death coming around the corner from that fear that you have. It's not the same as our ancestors used to deal with, but even though our external lives and our safety and all those things have changed immensely since our ancestors 200, 500, a million years ago, 500,000. So I meant 200,000, 500,000, a million years ago. When you look at that, our brains haven't changed all that much. They've changed, but they haven't changed all that much. We still have the amygdala, the fear-producing part of our brain. And so the thing that I want to get across, and I want you to start to realize through today's episode, is most people, when I speak with them, are like, well, I just need to get rid of my fear of public speaking. I need to get rid of my fear of judgment. I need to get rid of my fear of failure. And I say to them, what the fuck makes you think that you're going to get rid of it? Like, who told you that the fear is going to disappear? Because if I'm being honest with you, I don't think it will ever. I think you can get to, if you have a fear of judgment, if you have a fear of public speaking, you can get, whatever it might be, some sort of fear, you will probably have that fear till the day that you die. It just might be a lower grade version of that fear. So a lot of people like to wait. They tell themselves, quote unquote, that I'm going to wait until I get past my fear. And then I'm waiting until my fear is gone and I'm going to do it. I'm here to say your fear probably will never go away. Why don't you just do it? Just do it. Because another thing that's great about the fear is if you're listening to this podcast, you're the type of person who wants to get out of your comfort zone. You are the type of person who wants change. You're not listening to this podcast because you want your life to stay the same. You want to get out of your comfort zone. You want something to be different. You want to be different. So if you're going to get to the edge of your comfort zone, the best part about fear is that fear is the physical manifestation of the edge of your comfort zone. Fear, when you feel fear, it is your body and brain telling you, hey, Rob, you're approaching your comfort zone. And so if we know that we want to change our life, we know we have to get out of our comfort zone. And so when we feel fear, we can take a step back and be like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to do it. And we can retreat, or we can feel fear and go, okay, I'm feeling fear right now, which is telling me that I am on the absolute edge of my comfort zone. This is a really good thing because I want to get past my fears. I want to get past my comfort zone. So what I'm going to do is instead of just giving up, I'm going to just lean in a little bit further. I'm feeling this feeling of I'm about to post something on Instagram and I'm afraid to post it. Let me lean in. Let me go 1, 2, 3. And on 3, I just hit post and just do it. Oh shit, it's up. I can't do anything about it now. All right, I won't allow myself to delete it. And what you do is you actually start to use your fear for good. You start to use your fear to grow. And you have to start to realize that fear is actually a good thing. You feel the fear, you think to yourself, okay, I'm at the edge of my comfort zone. I consciously want to push past my comfort zone. So this thing that I'm fearing right now, I'm going to do it. And what happens is it's like the volume button. Your fears might be screaming in your ears right now, but the more that you do something over and over and over and over again, the quieter they get, the quieter they get, the quieter they get. And the more that you train yourself to feel your fears, but do it anyways. Because for too long, you've trained yourself to feel your fear and retreat, to feel your fear and retreat, to feel your fear and retreat. And now retreating is just like an automatic thing for you. No, you need to build the muscle of feeling your fear, doing it anyways, feeling your fear, doing it anyways, feeling your fear, doing it anyways. And then your muscle of doing it anyways will start to become stronger and stronger. That's what we're trying to work towards, to being the type of person that feels the fear but decides to do it anyways. That doesn't wait until the quote unquote fear disappears or we overcome the fears. It's not about the fear disappearing. It's not about overcoming the fears. It's learning to dance with your fears and using it for good versus allowing it to hold you back. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories right now and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. I love to see every podcast episode that we share. There's hundreds of you guys that share it and help us spread this message. So if you would do that, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It costs absolutely nothing to share this podcast to other people. So if you do that, I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Dial. Today, we're going to talk about how to stop caring about other people's judgment of you, and also just how overall to stop being offended. We're going to talk about not worrying about other people's judgments, not worrying about other people's opinions, because all too often I get so many messages from people that just say like, I'm so worried about taking action because I'm worried about what my mom's going to say. I'm worried about what my aunt is going to say. I'm worried about my father who said, you went to school to be an engineer. Why would you go and do this other thing? And last week, I actually got an Instagram message, and the question was really around how to deal with someone that says things to you that hurts you all the time. So, I have this relationship with this person. They say things to hurt me all the time. And I saw that message come through, and I was like, you know what? I should do a podcast episode on this, which this is also why it's good to follow me on Instagram. That's where I usually communicate with people, my followers the most. So if you want to follow me on there, it's Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And you have ideas for podcast episodes, send them through. Maybe you'll hear me talk about it. So the first thing I'll tell you is this. If you are worried about other people's judgments, opinions, if somebody is talking down to you, the first thing I want you to understand is you have to stop hanging out with people who talk down to you. There's so many people that message me that are like, how do I deal with this person? And I'm like, the best way to deal with them is to stop dealing with them. Just remove them from your life. It's like saying like, hey, it hurts when I touch here. And it's like, okay, we'll stop touching there. That's kind of what it comes down to. And I realize that for some of you that are listening, like that's impossible because the person who offends me or the person who talks down to me is my spouse, or it is my mother, or it is my father, or it's my sister. Well, in that case, you need to make some adjustments. There's two options. Either number one, you stay with that person, you stay in a relationship with them. I guess there's two options, or three options. You either stay in a relationship with them. Number two is you change your relationship with them. You spend less time with them. Or number three, you actually don't have that person in your life anymore. And I've gotten some hate before in the past of saying that people should, if somebody is really rude to them, they should stop hanging out with them, even if it is one of their parents. And I've had some people that have said, oh, you should never tell someone not to hang out with their parents or not to be with their mom. And my response to that is, you should see some of the messages that I get as to how terrible some people's parents are to them. I'm talking about like the worst things I've heard sometimes come from somebody who is in a relationship with their parents. And so I'm not saying that this is something that you have to do. I'm giving you options. It's your life. You can choose what you want to do. But really what it comes down to is you've got to stop hanging out with people who are holding you back. You've got to stop hanging out with people who are talking trash to you when you're just trying to do your best. You got to stop hanging out with people who don't want the best for you, or people who cut you down. Or whenever you're successful, they find holes in your success. You know what I mean? Like they're the type of people where if you won the lottery, they'd be like, oh my God, do you know how much you have to pay in taxes? You're not even going to take home all of that $40 million. Like they're those types of people. They're the people who throw in the little tiny negative comments, just the little tiny jabs. And it's like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like the one cut doesn't hurt, but if it's over and over and over again, it's like, dude, how much longer can I take this person's shit? And really what it comes down to is you have to decide that the people that you surround yourself with might be the most important thing in your entire life. And there is study after study after study about how the people that you surround yourself with dictate the life you're going to have. There's the longest study on happiness, which is over 85 years old at this point, was done by Harvard. And they found out the happiest people are the ones that have deep, meaningful relationships. And the ones that have toxic relationships actually have been found to be the equivalent of not taking care of your body, of smoking cigarettes, of not working out. And so they've actually found over these 80 years of studying people's lives that people who have the best relationships actually live longer. Not the most relationships, but the best relationships. The people who have the most toxic relationships don't tend to live as long. And so really what it comes down to is you've got to, before anything else, if you're like, hey, how do I not be offended by these people? How do I not care about other people's opinions, other people's judgments? How do I work with somebody who's constantly talking down to me? The first immediate response is, can you figure out a way to distance yourself from that person? I don't really know who they are in your life, and I don't care who they are in your life. But really what it comes down to is you need to be able to have an environment, a social environment that is for your happiness, for your joy, for your success, for your love, and anything that's outside of that, you need to see if you can remove. And so that's the first thing I want you to think about as you're really starting to think about that. And I'll talk a little bit more about your circle in just a minute. Next thing I think about when I think about this is really interesting thing to think about is that nobody can say something to you that hurts without you already believing that thing. So nobody can say something to you and that offends you unless that thing that offends you is something that you already either subconsciously or consciously believe in some sort of way. You know, there's many things that I could come up to you and I could say, and none of them would offend you. But I could say one thing to you and that thing offends you. That thing is actually what you believe in yourself. And so that comes down to your own self-doubt. That comes down to your own self-love. You know, I've told this story so many times in the podcast, but it's so ridiculously relevant. But one of my friends, Ryan, he had a really successful business. He was like mid-20s and he was, had this business that was doing millions of dollars a year. And he was taking a walk with his mentor. And his mentor said, so Ryan, how's the business going? It seems like you're crushing it. And he said, man, you know what? Like every time I get an email from like a customer who wants to return their product or tells me that the product broke or that I made a shitty product, he's like, every time I get those emails, I just want to shut it all down. And so from the outside looking in, it looks like he's crushing it. From the inside out, he was like just frustrated with the fact that he was getting some emails or negative comments or reviews. And his mentor, who was, in his 50s at the time, said, yeah, I know why. And Ryan says, why? He goes, because you're insecure. You're insecure about those things. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm insecure. He goes, well, I'll give you an example. If a lady came up to you right now, we're walking down the street and said, hey, you have pink hair. What would you think? He's like, I don't know. I don't have pink hair. He said, what would you think? He goes, I probably think she's crazy because I don't actually have pink hair. And so then he said, okay, but if a lady came up to you right now and said, hey, I bought your product and your product sucks. And you start to feel something inside of you. You have to realize when you feel that thing inside of you, it's only because you already believe that. You don't believe you have pink hair. It doesn't offend you. But you believe that your product sucks. You believe it's inferior. Maybe you don't believe in 100% and have 100% conviction into this thing. And so really what it comes down to is that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent, which is what Eleanor Roosevelt says. If someone says, I don't like your hair, if you don't really care what your hair looks like, that's not going to offend you. I don't like your hair color, no big deal. I don't like your voice, no big deal. But when you have a wound or an insecurity around something and somebody brings up that wound or kind of pokes it with their finger and it hurts, it's because that insecurity already existed. They're not making you feel that way. What they're doing is they're bringing up something that's already inside of you. That anger that you feel is something that lives inside of you. That sadness that you feel is something that lives inside of you. That frustration that you feel is something that lives inside of you. It's not something that the person gives you by what they say. It's them showing you where you're not free. No one can make you feel something that hurts you unless you already believe it to be true. So as pissed off as you might be, as hurt as you might be, that person is giving you a gift. Even though they're pissing you off, they're giving you a gift. They're showing you where you're not free. They're showing you where you are hung up in your own mind. They're showing you where you still need work. That's a gift. Oh, thank you, universe, God, whatever you believe in, by coming and showing me where I'm not free through this person who's completely triggering me right now. Life is just a constant up-leveling of growth, and it never really stops. It's constantly, oh, I'm triggered here. I'm noticing I'm not free. I'm noticing my programming. I'm triggered here. I'm noticing my programming. I'm triggered here. I'm noticing my programming. Life is constantly showing you where you're not free so that you can either fold or that you can work through it and you can level up in some sort of way in your life. You will never arrive to a moment in your life where you're just 100% perfect. There is no destination. There's no way to not have any baggage. There's no way to not have any flaws. There's no way to not have any triggers. There's no way to just never have a temper or never feel emotion or be perfectly calm all of the time in the middle of a tornado. You're a human, and you have to realize that I believe, like I've known some people that have been extremely enlightened compared to me, like way further in on the journey. And they get to their 80s and they get to their 90s, and they still talk about how they're not free from a lot of their things. They still talk about how they've been working on themselves for 60, 70, 80 years. They've been putting time in, and they're still not free. And I'm going, damn it, well, if they're not free, I don't know if I'm ever going to get free, right? That's fine. And so when you realize that there is no destination that you get to where you're just perfect, it allows you to just have some more awareness and go, okay, all right, I see, Rob, where you're hung up. Let's go ahead and let's work through this. This is also really important why self-belief is such an important thing to think about. Because if you fully believe in yourself, if you fully believe in yourself, it doesn't actually matter what anybody says to you. Because you don't believe that. They're saying something to you, and do I believe them? They're telling me XYZ. Do I believe XYZ? No, because I think this of myself. I believe in myself so much that it doesn't matter what you say to me. I believe in my purpose so much that it doesn't matter what you say to me. That's what we're trying to work towards. So how do we start to believe in ourselves is the natural next question. Okay, if I believe fully in myself, that almost like puts a barrier around me where when someone throws their shit at me, I'm like, doesn't stick, doesn't really matter. So then how do we build that belief in ourselves? There's a couple different ways. I think one of the most important ways to build confidence in yourself is to continually, whatever the right answer would be there. I don't know what it is, not an English expert, but always push yourself to do something that you don't want to do, or to do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable every single day, something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Why is that? Because confidence doesn't only come from succeeding at things. Confidence also comes, and sometimes it comes even more often, by doing something that you didn't want to do. Whether you succeed or whether you fail, you watched yourself do something you didn't want to do for your own best interest. And so you showed up for yourself, whether you succeed or whether you failed, you showed up for yourself, and showing up for yourself and doing something that you didn't want to do builds a little bit of confidence. You didn't want to go for a run, you went for a damn run. You didn't want to wake up, you woke up early. And doing the things that are good for you is what's really important. And there's many studies that show that this is true. There's a thing that Albert Bandura came up with called the self-efficacy theory. And really what it comes down to is it revolves around the individual's belief in their ability to succeed in specific situations or to be able to accomplish tasks. And what they found out was that one of the primary ways to build self-confidence is through situations where the individual faces challenges and either succeeds or fails, but they at least put themselves into the challenge. And then overcoming the obstacles, achieving the goals, all of those are great and they help build confidence. But what's most important is the person putting themselves in challenging situations and actually doing something that they didn't want to do or doing something outside of their comfort zone or seeing that there was a challenge, they faced it anyway. And even if they fail, they go, well, damn it, at least I showed up for myself. At least I saw that challenge and I showed up. That's really important. And so if you're trying to build confidence, you got to ask yourself, am I just doing the same things every single day? Or am I constantly trying to push myself out of my comfort zone? Am I trying to change my circle? Am I trying to be different than the people that are around me? Am I trying to get into a circle where people make me better? We've heard over and over again that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if the people around you don't want the best for you, if they don't want your success, if they try to make you play small, if they, throw in those subtle negative remarks, find a new circle, figure it out. Because there's also study after study after study that shows that who you hang out with, you become. And so we've all heard the phrase, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's all awesome and stuff. But is there actual fact in it? Like, is there scientific proof that shows that a person will mold and shift themselves depending on who they surround themselves with? Funny you should ask that question. Yes, there is. There's a couple different ones. There's one that's called the Framingham Heart Study. It is a study that's been going on since 1948. And in 2007, two researchers analyzed the data from 1948 to 2007. And the study found out that various behaviors, traits, which also include happiness, obesity, and smoking habits, spread throughout social networks, which shows through all of this is that you become who you surround yourself with. They found, this is an interesting study that they found, interesting finding that they found in that study. They found that if a close friend becomes obese, if you have a close friend that becomes obese, your chances of becoming obese increase by 57%. So it shows that your social circle significantly influences your behaviors and habits. And so when a lot of people are like, hey, I'm trying to be I'm trying to be happier, I'm trying to do better, but nobody in my life really wants the same. What do? A lot of times I'm just honest with them. Just try to find a new circle where success and happiness becomes natural for you, not something that you have to fight for. There was also another study that was called the Rosenquist study on depression. And the study examined how happiness and depression spread within your closest social networks. And so they found that having a friend who becomes depressed, if you have a friend that becomes depressed, your chances of becoming depressed as well increase exponentially. On the other side of that, though, having a friend who's incredibly happy can decrease your chances of depression and potentially increase your overall happiness, which shows you that not only are you happy if your friends are happy, not only are you depressed or more likely to be happy if your friends are happy, or more likely to be depressed if your friends are depressed, you're also more likely to be obese if your friends are obese. And so it really comes down to like looking at your social circle and saying, is this social circle the one that I want to surround myself with? And then the last tip that I'll give you around this as well is really just start to be careful who you're taking advice from. If you're getting offended, if you're worried about other people's judgments, all of this, be careful who you surround yourself with. You know, like I love my mom. She's great, but I would never take advice from my mom on how to grow my Instagram. Why? My mom doesn't even have an Instagram. But how many people are out there not starting a business because your mom or dad or friends are saying that it's a terrible idea, yet they've never had a successful business? It's the same thing. I'm like, would you take advice from, somebody who is homeless on how to be a millionaire? Probably not. If I said, hey, you've got to find one mentor to mentor you on how to become a millionaire, go find them. What would you want to find? Someone who's a millionaire. And so you've got to start asking yourself the question, like, would I want to trade places with the person who's giving me advice? If someone's giving me relationship advice, but they've had just terrible relationships since I've known them, probably not the person I want to take relationship advice from. If someone's trying to give me business advice and they've literally never had a business, why would I ever take business advice from them? And so we've got to be really diligent on who we take our advice from. And would we want to trade positions with them with where they are in their life? And so really what it comes down to is there's many different ways to work on yourself, to not be offended, to not care about other people's judgments, not care about other people's opinions. But what it comes down to most is, number one, your own self-belief, your own self-confidence, because that basically just puts a firewall around you and you don't care what anybody says to you because you're so confident in your own personal abilities that the haters mean nothing to you. And the second thing, if you want to make it easier, just start paying attention to who you surround yourself with. How do you not be offended by other people's opinions and judgments? Don't hang out with other people who are constantly judging you. Quite simple. And so that's really what it comes down to, is notice your own internal talk and then notice the talk of the people that are around you as well. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. That's also where you can reach out to me if you have any podcast ideas, tips that you want to, hey, I'd love for you to talk about this. Can't guarantee that I'll talk about it, but I do look through all of them and try to see what you guys want me to talk about. And with that, I'm going to leave the same way I leave every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Today, we're going to be talking about the amazing power of your mind. This is the Mindset Mentor podcast. People call me the Mindset Mentor. Obviously, you know I am obsessed with understanding the thing that is in between your ears. I want to know how I work. I want to know my faults. I want to know the traps of my mind. But we're going to talk about how amazingly incredible your mind is today, and how if you can wrangle your mind to do what you want it to do, you can absolutely create the life that you want and everything that you want in your life. And we're going to talk about something that I think is one of the most incredible things that humans rarely ever talk about. It's called the placebo effect. You've probably heard of the placebo effect before, but do you really understand the incredible studies that have been done with the placebo effect? Placebo effect basically means that a doctor comes in and tells somebody, hey, this pill is going to heal you. And that pill that they give them is nothing. It's just a sugar pill. And they believe that it's going to heal them, and it heals them. Why do we not have our mind blown by this every single day? Because it's estimated that up to 32% of all medical healings come from the placebo effect, which means that people simply believe that they are healed and they end up healing themselves. We're given the most complex piece of machinery between our two ears, but we have no manual of how to use it. And that's what I want to try to help you do, is help you learn how to heal yourself and how to create the reality that you want to based off of your mind. And so there's a couple of studies I want to talk to you about to actually show you the science behind this. Ali Crum, who is a professional of psychology at Stanford, she's the director of the Mind Body Lab. She created these milkshakes, right? They were just normal milkshakes, and they measured the physiological response to somebody's body based off of these milkshakes, based off of what they told them about it. So they said to them, hey, this milkshake is a high-fat, high-calorie shake. And they gave it to them. And then they gave them the exact same shake, and they said, this right here, weeks later, is a sensible, low-calorie shake. And they had 1 week with one, and then 1 week with another one. And what's crazy about it is when they told the people that it was a high-fat, high-calorie shake, their body reacted as if there was a lot of fat and a lot of calories that came in. When they told them it was a sensible, low-calorie shake, their body, created less ghrelin, and ghrelin is the chemical that creates the feeling of hunger. Their body created 3 times less ghrelin when they thought they were given a sensible shake, which means that they thought they were given a sensible shake and they just happened to be less hungry because of it. Basically, their bodies responded as if they had consumed less food when they were given the quote unquote low calorie shake. And when they were given the quote unquote high calorie, high fat shake, their bodies responded as if they had consumed more food. But they were given the exact same shake week 1 and week 2, which means that their bodies responded to what they thought about the shake. Pretty crazy, right? Let's give you a couple more. There was a group of hotel housekeepers, and they went to these hotel housekeepers, and they realized that, these people who are hotel housekeepers, they're kind of working out a lot. When you look at the Surgeon General, they say that you should have a minimum of 30 minutes of moderate exercise. But when you look at these women who were hotel housekeepers, they found out that they were getting a lot more than the Surgeon General recommended. And so 3 out of 10 of these women actually thought that they work out and take care of themselves. They told half of them that their work was incredible for their bodies, and that they were consuming and not consuming, they were burning more calories at their job than the average person does every single day. And those women and men, so the housekeepers, men and women, they told them that, hey, you're actually going to be losing weight by having this job and by working this job. And then half of them, they didn't tell them anything. The half that they said, hey, you're actually burning more calories than the average person, the ones that thought they were burning more calories ended up losing weight, and they decreased their blood pressure by, on average, 10 points because they simply believed that their work was good for their bodies. They felt better about their bodies, and they felt better about their work. They didn't report any differences in their diet or their workout routine, though. Pretty crazy, isn't it? Let's give you a couple more. There's a thing that was called the sham surgery trials. In one study, patients with osteoarthritis of the knee were either given a real surgery on their knee or a sham surgery, which means that they made an incision in their knee but they didn't actually do anything to their knee except for put a line in their skin. So no actual surgical procedure was performed. Many of those people who received the sham surgery reported improvements in pain and functional, which was comparable to the people who actually underwent the real surgery. So they saw a line in their leg and went, I've gotten the surgery. They must have fixed my knee. And when they think their knee is fixed, guess what's crazy? The knee actually started to fix itself. Okay, the last study I'm going to tell you about this as well was around IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So there was a study that was conducted by the Harvard Medical School, and they involved these patients with IBS. Some of them were given no treatment, while others were given the placebo pills, and the doctors were openly telling them that they were sugar pills and they were no active ingredient. So some of them were like, hey, we're giving you the placebo effect. We're giving you a sugar pill. We're just going to see what happens. Some of them were given this pill and said, hey, listen, this pill is going to help you out with your IBS. The group that took the placebo and thought to themselves, this is actually going to help my IBS, reported twice the rate of symptom relief compared to the other treatment, the quote unquote no treatment group, which means that these people thought that this pill was going to help their IBS. And guess what? They reported twice the rate of symptom relief compared to the other group, which shows you study after study after study after study. When you think that you are healed, you can actually heal yourself, which shows you the power of your mind, and it shows you the power of the mind-body connection. Now, then you got to start to ask yourself, if somebody believes that they are healed and they heal themselves, could it also work the exact opposite way, where someone thinks they're sick, and because they think they're sick, they make themselves more sick? And the answer is yes. That's called the nocebo effect. When people were told about the negative side effects, they're more likely to experience those negative side effects. People who thought they had a fever had a 3-degree jump in their body temperature when they were told by doctors that they had a fever, even though they didn't. So a doctor said, hey, you have a fever, and their body temperature actually went up 3 degrees. So when sometimes people think they're getting sick, it can actually create that physiological symptoms inside of your body. There's been studies on headaches, exactly the same, where there were experiments that they did where participants were warned that they might have headaches as a result to high Wi-Fi and mobile signals in the area, which were not true. But they said, hey, in this room, there's a lot of Wi-Fi, there's a lot of phone signals, you might just get a headache. The participants who were told that were more likely to report that they had headaches than the people who weren't given those warnings. They thought they would get a headache. Guess what? They got a headache. Damn, this is pretty crazy. Hey, Rob, are there any other studies on this? Absolutely. Let me tell you one more. One more study is withdrawal symptoms in quote unquote decaffeinated coffee drinkers. And so they took regular coffee drinkers, and most people know that when you stop drinking coffee, you're supposed to have withdrawal symptoms. So they took regular coffee drinkers and they were given their regular morning coffee, but were falsely told that they were drinking decaffeinated coffee. And a very large number of those people developed their own withdrawal symptoms, such as headaches, simply due to the expectation that they had decaffeinated. But the crazy part about it was they were given their regular morning coffee, which shows you can make yourself healthy. You can also make yourself sick. Now, in this podcast, I'm not trying to say don't go to a medical doctor. I'm not trying to say anything bad about the health industry, any of that stuff. I'm just trying to make you understand that there's a really, really strong connection to what you think, to what your body actually does. And maybe, just maybe, we're making ourselves sicker. And maybe, just maybe, we're holding ourselves back based off of what we actually think about ourselves. And there's more data on the placebo effect than any other drug that's ever been created in the world, because the placebo effect is required in all drug studies. People think they're healed, and they're healed. How fucking crazy is that? What does this show you? It shows you that what you think actually changes everything in your life. It's not necessarily the circumstances of your life. It's not the circumstances of how you were raised, where you come from, what your body looks like, who you surround yourself, it's not just the circumstances about you. It's more about what you think of yourself. It's like the story, the parable of there's two different twins, and they go up to one of the twins, and they were raised with an alcoholic father, and they go up to one of them who's an alcoholic later on in life, and they say, "Hey, why are you an alcoholic?" And the alcoholic one says, "I'm an alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic." And they go up to the other one who's a successful CEO, and they say, "Hey, why are you a successful CEO? Why are you not an alcoholic like your father?" And he says, "I'm not an alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic." Those twins had the exact same life, the exact same upbringing, the exact same father. But what they thought about their father, what they thought about their circumstances, and what they thought about how they were raised changed what they actually do with their life. And I can relate to this because my mom's biggest fear in the world is that I'm going to be an alcoholic, because my father was an alcoholic and passed away when I was 15 from liver failure from alcohol. So my mom's biggest fear is that I'm going to be an alcoholic. But I know with every single cell in my body, there's no universe that I could possibly live in where I am going to be an alcoholic. And I've made that decision. Now, I don't think, just to tell you this, I don't think that you can go and eat crappy food all day long and eat fast food and McDonald's all day long and say, "This McDonald's hamburger and French fries is making me thin. This big 1,500 calorie milkshake is making me thin, and it's just going to make you thin." I'm not saying that. But what I think is that if you tell yourself that you enjoy healthy food, if you tell yourself that you enjoy taking care of your body, then you will love the taste of that food more. You will love taking the action to create a healthy body a little bit more. You will be more inclined to go for that healthier food. If you're not a fan of going to the gym, tell yourself that you enjoy taking care of your body. It might be hard. Hell yeah, it's hard. Going to the gym is hard, but you enjoy what it's doing for yourself. You enjoy that it's going to allow you to live a longer, healthier life so that you can be around for your kids more, so that you can be around for your grandkids, so that you don't have a heart attack, so that you don't die early. Tell yourself how much you love and you enjoy taking care of your body. Remind yourself how every set that you put in the gym matters. Hey, yeah, this is hard, but I showed up for myself. And it really comes down to what you actually think. I remember one of our clients in my coaching group, Mindset Mentor University, Amar, years ago, he was talking about how he was taking a flight with his 4 kids and his wife, and they were going to be going on a trip down to Puerto Rico. And he said, "Man, this flight," his exact words are, "this flight is going to be a bitch." And I said, "Really? Do you think it's actually going to be a bitch? Because if you think it's going to be a bitch, it's going to be a bitch." And I said, "You got to think differently." And he's like, "Okay, I'll tell myself that it's going to be great and it's going to be amazing." And the flight ended up being amazing. But if he had told himself over and over again, "It's going to be hard, it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard," do you think that the flight might have been a little bit harder? Do you think he might have caused a little bit more restriction in his own mindset? Because we get what we're looking for. You're always going to get what you're looking for in this world. If you're looking for all of the reasons why things are going to be hard for you, you'll find all of the reasons why things are going to be hard for you. If you look for all of the reasons why you're going to follow this path and follow your passion and do something that you love, you'll find all of the reasons why it exists. Your brain is like cosmic Google. If you type something into Google, you will find that answer for whatever it is you're looking for. If you go into Google right now and you type, "Is coffee bad for your eyesight?" you will find studies that say coffee is bad for your eyesight. If you Google "coffee is good for your eyesight," you will find all of the proof that show coffee is actually good for your eyesight. Your brain is the exact same way. If you're constantly asking the questions, whatever questions you're asking, and you're constantly looking for something, you will find what you're looking for. You have to realize that you will get what you're looking for in your life. The question is, what are you looking for? You have to realize the power of your belief. You have to change your belief. You have to change your words. You have to change everything that you speak into existence, because your belief changes your words. Your words change your world, and you speak your world into existence. So don't ever say something like, "I can't do that." Say something like, "I'm not able to do that yet," or "I'm improving at that thing." Don't ever say, "I'm not good at math." Say, "I'm working at improving myself in math." Because ultimately, the difference between those is just closing a door and shutting off any alternative realities that could exist versus leaving the door open to possibility. Or saying, "I'm not just going to leave it open to possibility. I'm going to create my future and what I want into existence." Your mind is so ridiculously powerful that whatever you think, whatever you say, you will speak into existence. And if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you've heard me talk about the word abracadabra. I always thought that abracadabra up until about 3 years ago was just like the phrase that a magician said right before they took a rabbit out of a hat. But if you look at the actual word abracadabra, it is a Hebrew word that means as I speak, I create. As I speak words into reality, I create that reality. Now you got to ask yourself, what is a thought? A thought is just speaking in your own head, isn't it? So as you think, you also create. The question is, what are you speaking into reality? What are you thinking into reality? Because you're going to create that thing. Your mind is so ridiculously powerful. You have to understand that. You will create the reality that you are thinking about most in your life. You create your reality, and in order to succeed, you must first believe you can succeed. And not just like, hey, I believe I can succeed, but I'm going to get all 40, 50 trillion of my cells to believe that what I want is actually possible. There are incredible medical healings that have happened because of the placebo effect. There's also incredible things that people have done to themselves in a negative way because of the nocebo effect. And so what I really want you to get from this podcast episode is the power of your own mind. What are you thinking? What are you saying? And if those don't line up with the reality that you're trying to create in your life, you have to change them. And that's what it comes down to. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please do me a favor. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Rob Dial Jr. Once again, it is ROBDIALJR. And if you have any episodes you want me to cover in the future, send me a DM on Instagram and say, hey, Rob, it'd be really cool if you could talk about this. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to talk about whatever it is that you send me a message about, but just maybe, and I've done it many times before, just maybe, I'm going to get a message from somebody and say, hey, that's a really great episode. I'm going to create an episode on that. I've done it many times before. So if you want to give me some suggestions, send me a DM. That's what I check the most in the way I communicate with followers. Once again, it's Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission, make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing, amazing day. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to give you 3 steps to design and plan out the life that you want to create. Let's dive in. This is super important. If you're the type of person who's listening to this podcast right now, you're listening because you want more in life. You want to create a life that you're proud of. But most people go through life with no clear plan, just basically like a sailboat that's just letting the wind take it wherever it goes, and they're just hoping that they end up where they want to be. Versus actually sitting there and going, okay, I'm going to take over the steering wheel. I'm going to get myself to where I want to go. And so they don't plan out who they want to be, what they want to do, what they want to experience. And a couple of days ago, I was meditating, and recently what I've really been doing is just focusing on being grateful and focusing on just saying thank you. That's it. That's the main thing I'm trying to do. And we're about to move into a new house in about a month or so. And I started thinking about what it would be like if I brought Rob from 2015 into my life right now and what he would think about it. And because it's easy for us to be in our current life and to be like, oh, I need more, I want to achieve more, I need to do this, I need to do that. And feeling like we have like lack, or feeling like we've lost something, or feeling like we're longing for something. And so I just started thinking, like, if I could bring Rob from 10 years ago to this moment, what would he think about this? And I started thinking about, like, when I first moved to Austin, I lived in my friend's house and I rented a room from him. And I started the podcast. I had the idea for the podcast when I lived inside of that house. And then I moved into a house of my own. And it was my first house I ever bought. And I remember when my girlfriend and I, who is now my wife, moved in, and we were so excited to have like this house that we lived in. And it was the first place that we moved in together. And I remember how grateful I was for that house. And then about a year and a half later, we went and we traveled for 6 months and rented the house out. And we just traveled all around the world. And how grateful I was, because all I wanted to do was travel. And so we traveled for 6 months. And I was so grateful for that. And then after we came back to Austin, we moved into like a nice luxury apartment downtown. And how grateful I was that I did that. And we moved into such a nice place. It was downtown and we could experience that life. And then we wanted a bigger place, so we moved into the east side. And I was so grateful that we moved into the east side and was able to experience that. And then the house that I live in right now, I was so grateful for. And I was thinking about each one of the steps of my life and how I've come so far. And I was just thinking how just so much gratitude towards it. And I was feeling so grateful for each step. And the thought came into my head, how the hell did I get here? Like, how did I get here? I started thinking about it. I was like, man, I have intentionally planned out my life for a really long time. And I started planning out my life and really designing my life in 2007. The company that I worked for had a guy come in and talk to us about how to design your life and what you want it to look like, and putting 100 goals down of, financial goals and traveling goals and spiritual goals and intellectual goals and fitness goals and all of that. Put them all down on a piece of paper and make a 10-year plan. And it was the first time I'd ever made a 10-year plan. And I journaled out the life that I wanted, everything that I wanted. And I found that journal a few years ago, and it was crazy to see how many things I had knocked off the list and I didn't even realize it. And so today, we're not going to plan out your life specifically from right now. What we're going to do is we're actually going to plan your life from the end and then work backwards. And so we're going to start from your funeral, and then we're going to look back. And it seems morbid. Yeah, we're going to talk about you dying today, right? It seems morbid, but this is a super powerful exercise that I use with my clients that really helps you get a lot of clarity on what it is that you want to create, what you want your life to be, how you want to be as a person, how you want your relationships to be. It allows you to become more focused on what it is that you want, but then also start to be very intentional in crafting a life that you truly want. And it's kind of like the idea of memento mori, which is, the reminder. It's a Stoic philosophy, which is basically translates to remember you're going to die. Think about death. And when you think about death, it can sound morbid, but really what it does is it makes your present moment way more significant when you know that you're not going to have this at some point in time. And I remember asking my mom a few years ago how often she thinks about death. And she was like, I don't know, maybe once a week. I was like, oh, cool. And she's like, how often do you think about death? I was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 times a day. And she's like, is something wrong with you? I was like, no, I just think about it because it gives urgency to my life. It gives urgency to this moment. And so we're going to go through 3 steps of basically how to design your life and then how to live intentionally. And in step number 1 is to imagine the end and who you want to be. And so I want you to imagine your eulogy. I want you to imagine that you're dead. You're dead. You're at the funeral and you're giving a eulogy for yourself. And today can be a working session. So if you're at home and you've got a journal, just take out your journal and pause me as much as you need to. And I want you to imagine that you are someone at your funeral giving a eulogy for yourself. What do you want to say about yourself? By writing your eulogy, you can start to create a very vivid picture of the life that you lived. And then we can work backwards after we do that. And we can write about the person that you aspire to be and the values that you embodied, the legacy that you're going to leave behind. And it helps you reverse engineer your life and figure out who you want to be. And then every decision that you make from here forward brings you closer to that life, hopefully, if we use that. And so I'm going to give you a few different categories, and I want you to kind of just write stuff down if you're writing. If you're driving your car, just start to think about these. Let's talk about your character and your values first off. How do you want people to describe you after you die? When you're not in the room, how do you want people to describe you? Do you want to be remembered for kindness, for integrity, for perseverance, for being adventurous, for being fun, for being loving? What do you want people to describe you as? What core values did you live by, and how did they show up in your daily actions? So maybe you say, you know what, I want to be a very honest person. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit to honesty. I'm going to make a commitment to always tell the truth, even when it's difficult from this moment forward. Maybe you say, you know what, I want to be kinder. So I'm going to practice daily kindness. I'm going to set a goal to perform at least one act of kindness every single day, whether it's helping a colleague, volunteering my time, even just giving somebody a compliment when I walk in a Starbucks. So maybe kindness is a thing I want to start cultivating. Maybe I want to be more patient. Okay, well, what does that look like for me to develop more patience in my life? Maybe you want to be somebody who has really high integrity. So you start thinking, okay, what would it look like if I lived the rest of my life with the highest integrity that I possibly can? Maybe I want to be somebody who's really resilient. I want people to talk about how no matter what happened to him, he always found a way to get through it and work through it. And he inspired other people to break barriers as well. And so start to write down what characteristics, what values, how do you want people to describe you after you're gone? Hey, real quick, I want to introduce you to something called Mindset Mentor Plus. If you love this podcast, you will absolutely love what I'm about to talk about. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to help you actively integrate every one of these episodes into your life. And here's how it works. With every episode of this podcast that comes out, Mindset Mentor Plus subscribers get more. You're going to get multiple page, detailed, printable worksheets, effectively a mini masterclass that's way more in depth than just this podcast. They also come with journaling questions, challenges, assignments, and so much more, so that you're not just listening to these podcasts passively, but you're actively integrating them into your life. That way you improve much faster. I also do monthly Q&A sessions in there and much, much more. If you want to learn more about it, go to mindsetmentor.com or click the link that's down in the description. The next category is your impact that you had and the legacy that you had. What impact did you have on the world? If you're writing from the end and just start with the end in mind, instead of saying, hey, I want this thing, I want to leave the world with this impact, you're going to say, Rob left the world with this impact. What impact did you have on the world? Did you make a difference in your community, in your industry, on a global scale? What causes were you passionate about? How did you contribute to them? Consider all of the ways that you inspire and help inspire other people and help them out in some way. Maybe you say, I want to support a cause. I want to find a specific cause that I can put 5 hours a week into, and I can, donate a certain percentage of my income or volunteer there and in a certain amount of hours per week or per month. And you support that cause and become something that really motivates you to put your extra time into. Maybe you say, hey, I've gotten pretty far in life. What I want to do is I want to start mentoring other people. And you might want to aim to mentor a certain amount of people in your field and help them grow and help them succeed like other people did for you when you were younger. Maybe you say, hey, I've got a lot of knowledge and I want to write a book. Maybe you want to establish a scholarship. So what does it look like for you? What is your impact going to look like? What did it look like over the course of your lifetime? What legacy are you leaving? Next category I want you to start thinking about is I want you to start thinking about the people that you're close to in your family and your relationships. How do you want to be remembered? When you look at your relationships, what do you want your children to say about you? What do you want your family to say about you? What do you want your spouse to say about you? How are your relationships, the people that you're closest with, going to talk about you? Did you create really deep, meaningful connections with your loved ones? Were you a really supportive partner, a nurturing parent, a loyal friend? Think back on the quality of your relationships over the course of your life. It's the end. It's over. You're dead. Think back of what your life was and the love that you shared and write it all down. What did it look like? And just don't even think about it. Just write it. Don't go, oh, well, that's not realistic. No. Just write it down. Maybe you want to have a really firm and strong family bond. Maybe you want to make sure that you have family dinners every single week. You have outings couple times a month to make sure that you have quality time with the people that you love the most. Maybe you want to be a really active parent. Maybe you didn't have an active parent when you were a child and you want to be more involved in your children's lives. Maybe you want to go to their school events. Maybe you want to coach their basketball team. Maybe you want to help them with their homework every single night. What does it look like to be an active parent? Maybe you want to have a really great partnership and you commit to regular date nights every single Friday. Getting a sitter and making sure that you have date nights every single Friday. Maybe it's weekend getaways once a quarter, just the two of you, so you can have a really strong and loving relationship with your partner. Maybe you want to have really great connections with friends, and maybe you've been so busy for the past 5 years that you need to reconnect with some of your friends. And so you're going to set a goal to reach out to old friends and maintain regular contact with them, whether that's calls, whether that's visits, FaceTimes, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to get better at intimacy. You're not really good at vulnerability and you want to start being a little bit more intimate and vulnerable with your partner and improve your communication with them. What does that look like for you? And so start putting it down what you want it to look like with your relationships and with your family life. Okay, next thing is what milestones do you want to hit? What accomplishments do you want to have over the course of your life? What significant milestones do you want to achieve? What did you achieve over the course of your lifetime? Whether it's personal, professional, creative achievements, just write everything down that would just make you feel the most fulfilled. What did you excel at? How did you push the boundaries? How did you bring your potential to the real world? Maybe you want to complete a marathon. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to publish a research paper, buy a home. Maybe you want to win a Grammy or win an Oscar. What are the accomplishments, the fun things, the big mountains that you get to climb? That's the next category. The next category after that, passions and adventures. What passions did you pursue over the course of your lifetime? Did you travel the world? Did you put yourself into new cultures? Did you embrace new adventures? What did you do? Reflect on all of the experiences that made your life amazing. You're dead. Reflect on all of the ones that made your life amazing. Maybe you say, go skydiving. Maybe it's travel to 30 different countries. Maybe it's learn a new language. Go on a solo backpacking trip for 3 weeks. Maybe it's go to a major cultural event like the Olympics or Carnival or something like that. What is it that you decided to do? What are the crazy things that you did over the course of your amazing life? Okay, next category is your financial goals. What was your relationship with money like? How much money did you make? Did you achieve all the financial success and security? What wealth did you create? What did you do? You're dead now. What happens to that money? Who gets it? Do your children get it? Or do you just, give your children a little bit and you donate all the rest to a charity that you really appreciate? Maybe you retired by 45 years old. Maybe you had 25 investment properties. Maybe you had 7 streams of income. Maybe your net worth was $10 million by the time you were 50. Just write it all down. And what you do is you start writing all of this stuff down of like what you want your life to look like. And you start thinking about all of these different aspects and you create a very detailed vision of what your life was, aka what you want your life to be. Sometimes it's easier to start with the end in mind than to go, well, this is what I want for my life. And this vision that you create becomes a foundation for this journey of your life that you have going forward. How did you want to feel every single day? What was your internal state like? Write everything down that just inspires you that comes up. Okay, so that's step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to reverse engineer your life. We're going to come up with a roadmap, a blueprint. Once you've written out your eulogy, the next step is to work backward and create a roadmap from this. And so what you're going to want to do is you want to set goals. And so you want to put deadlines and you want to actually figure out what the deadlines are going to be. Okay, so if I want to be at $10 million net worth by 50, well, then I need to be at $1 million within the next 3 years. Okay, how do I need to do that? If you want to be remembered for your generosity, maybe you set a goal to contribute a certain percentage of your income to charity every single year. If you want to be a big global traveler, you need to figure out how many countries you want to go to, what countries you want to go to, and what age you want to hit them by. And then give yourself a deadline for every single one of them. And so you just come up with goals and you actually start to plan, okay, well, hey, this is the life that I created, from my eulogy. This is the first thing I want to do. I want to do this, this, and this within this year. Okay, let me start planning out. And you start creating goals from that. Make sure you give yourself deadlines for every single one of them, because like the phrase says, a goal without a deadline is just a dream. We don't want it to be dreams. We want it to be goals, and we want to be able to have them to work towards. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to have regular reflection to make sure that you're staying on track. I would recommend that you do a really in-depth reflection of your eulogy, your plan, your blueprint every single quarter. And you just review your progress, celebrate your achievements. If you hit 5 different milestones, go out and buy yourself a pizza, whatever it is. Get a good glass of wine or whatever it is that really makes you feel like, I'm going to celebrate myself. And then you start to move and shift a little bit. Life is really dynamic. Your vision's going to change. It's going to evolve over time. And so regularly sitting back and reflecting is going to make sure that your actions are remaining aligned with your true desires. So now you start to have, okay, now I've got the goals. I've got a little bit more of a roadmap, and I know what I'm going to be doing. Now that you have it, you've basically got your life manifesto. You know exactly what you want your life to be. You know exactly what you want to hit it by. And you go, this is what I'm going to be and what I'm going to create. So what do you do now? Well, now you've got to create it. So you've got to go to step number 3. And step number 3 is to start living this life, to actually bring your vision to life. When you write your eulogy out and you create that roadmap from the beginning to the end, what you need to do now is actually start living with intention. Don't wake up every single morning and just, I hope I can create my dreams today. No, you're going to wake up every single morning and actually have daily reflection. And every day, I want you to look at that and you remind yourself every single morning before you leave the house. Maybe it's you can habit stack, which means if there's something that you do every single morning, you're just going to take this life manifesto and you're going to attach the reading of it to another another habit that you have every single day. So maybe if you drink coffee every single day, what you're going to do is you're going to read your life manifesto. Good Lord, I can't even get out of your life manifesto. You're going to read it every single day for 5 minutes while you drink your coffee. And you start your day by revisiting your eulogy, remembering you're going to die one day. This is the life that you're going to create. I need to start working towards this thing. And the daily reflection really helps you stay grounded in your purpose. And then you start to make choices that align with your vision, not align with scarcity or staying in your comfort zone or whatever it might be. And then what happens is it helps you make better decisions. It's more mindful decision making, because every decision that you make, no matter how big or how small, should bring you closer to your vision. And so what you start to do, and this is a phrase one of my very first mentors gave me, which is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to or further from my goals? I wrote about this in my book, Level Up, because I just love this phrase so much. I used to ask myself this all the time. Whenever I'd set a goal and I would become aware throughout the day of I'm doing something, whatever it is that I was doing, and my awareness pops in, I would just ask myself, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to or further from my goals? Well, this is getting me further from. Okay, I've got to stop doing this thing. I've got to do something else. And so what you do is you actually start making better decisions because you're using this life manifesto that you're reading every single morning while you drink your coffee, and you're sitting there going, okay, I'm looking at what I'm doing right now. I'm scrolling on Instagram. It's been 17 minutes that I've been scrolling on Instagram. Is this getting me closer to or further from my goals? It's getting me further from my goals. All right, maybe I should do something different. What is the best action that I can take right now that's going to get me closer to accomplishing one of the things that I need to get done this year? And what you do is you use your eulogy to help you plan your life out and bring the idea of memento mori, of remembering that you're going to die, to bring urgency to your life, to remind you that one day it's going to end. One of the worst things that could happen is looking back and being like, I could have done more. I could have impacted more. I could have had more potential I brought to the world. But when you take this life manifesto that you've created from your eulogy and you think about it every single morning, it brings urgency to your life, it brings excitement to your life, and it gives you something to shoot for. So try it out. Let me know how it goes. That's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. One of the biggest things that you can do to say thank you is to just spread this podcast anywhere where you can spread it. If you put it on Instagram, if you send it to your friends, whatever it is, this podcast only grows from you guys sharing it. And so if you would share it, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it so I could impact more people and help more people. And hopefully, in some sort of way, make the world a little better of a place. So if you do that, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.